Have you lost your job? Have you lost a loved one? Are you exhausted caring for your parents, for your kids? Well, you can find immediate relief when you read Sheila Mac's new #1 bestseller, Bootstraps and Bra Straps. It contains the Boots formula to move from rock bottom back into action in any situation, especially right now. If life has knocked you down, pick yourself up with Bootstraps and Bra Straps. Get your copy at www.SheilaMac.
Are you ready for a reboot? Welcome to the Sheila Mac Show, reality at its finest. History reminds us those hit hardest often become the change makers. This year, we've all hit crazy economic, social, and emotional rock bottoms. We all get knocked down. Something hits globally, locally, personally. It affects our health, finances, our relationships. We have to recreate a business or career. Each show, Sheila and her special guest will be sharing their reboot stories, guiding you with real solutions to upgrade and up-level emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, and financially. Here on NBC's KCAA Radio. If you're ready to pull yourself up by the bootstraps and bra straps, enjoy a listen. Here's Sheila.
Welcome to the Sheila Mac Show, reality at its finest. Here we have real people sharing real stories and actionable steps to help you reinvent, rebuild, and reboot your business and personal life on your terms. I'm your host, Sheila Mac, and today we have special guest Jim Flynn. Jim is the author of 3 books. He also takes care of his 2 horses and 28 acres of land. Jim first got into writing after appearing on as a Jeopardy contestant and getting paid for writing an article about that experience. Jim's 3 books are all on Amazon. The first is a humorous fictional memoir. The next 2 are financial thrillers featuring a reoccurring protagonist. He is currently working on a 3rd in the series. All right. Welcome to the show, Jim.
Well, thanks. Thanks, Sheila. Thanks for having me.
And based on my new best-selling book, that's how this show came about. It's called Bootstraps and Bra Straps, the formula to go from rock bottom back into action in any situation. I wrote it right before our pandemic showed up. And I never could imagine all these situations. So it's definitely timely. So I'd love for you to share maybe about a time in your business or personal life where you experienced a difficult situation and how you got back on track.
Well, I had an interesting situation that most people don't have. I had brain surgery.
Wow.
I was just cruising along, and I was a career as a financial advisor. I was always interested in writing, and as you mentioned, the one time I did write during my financial career was after being a contestant on Jeopardy. I loved that. It was great. I got paid for it. I got fan mail. I had strangers called me and said, "Oh, you should write more. You're really funny. You should write." So anyhow, I sort of put that in the back of my mind, and I started working on a book in my mind for years. And I was just going along and playing golf one day. No symptoms, no anything.
Wow.
The last thing I remember is my right arm weighed 4 million pounds. I cannot describe it any other way than that. I woke up in the hospital, the guy shining a light in my eyes and said, "James, do you know where you are?" And I thought, "James, what did I kill somebody?"
Wow.
I can't figure out what was going on. He said, "You have a broken arm, a broken vertebrae, your skull is cracked, and all that was caused by the fact that you have a brain tumor, which caused you to have a seizure, and you fell off the golf cart right on your head in the parking lot."
My goodness.
And I said, "Yeah, but other than that, how am I doing?"
Right.
which shows I'm kind of a wise guy sense of humor that comes through in my books. So I ended up having brain surgery, and as I've mentioned in one of my books, there is no minor brain surgery. It's serious stuff. And you don't know if you're going to wake up. You don't know if you're going to die you don't know if it's cancer. You don't know. It took about 2-3 weeks between then and the surgery because they stabilized me with a bunch of strong drugs and things. So I went into the surgery saying, if I live through this, and I'm coherent, because that's one of the dangers, is they're messing around with your brain. And the surgeon said, we're in the part of your brain that handles speech, language, and math. So when you wake up, we don't know. So I woke up, the first thing I started to do is talking. And I wouldn't shut up.
That's wonderful.
And in fact, they said, you should probably calm down now and, not talk for a while. But anyhow, before the surgery, I said, if I live through this and I'm capable of doing it, I'm going to write this book that I've always thought of writing. And so I made it through the surgery. Great surgeon, Dr. Joseph Piepmeyer of Yale. Great guy, now retired. His great assistant, Andrea Ladano. They've become friends of mine. They're fans of my books. In fact, my first book I sent Dr. Piepmeyer, and I said, well, with every brain surgery, I get one free book. After that, subsequent, you're going to have to pay for them. So, and they're both fans of my books. It's great. And we're still kind of email friends. But as I recovered, I was physically okay, and I can fake being what I was before, but I'm not. I can't do math, and I can't really analyze things. I have a very short attention span in anything technical. I just can't do it. And it made me realize, hey, I was pretty good at that before. Can't do it at all now. As I went back to work and I was physically capable, I realized I'm not doing a good. No, so step back for a second. I'd been doing it for 35 years, and you accumulate all these clients and assets, and I was at the apex of my career. But I realized I'm not doing it. I'm not doing anything. I'm just sitting. I'm just taking up space. So fortunately, I was on a team of people, and I went to my regional manager and said, I should leave. I should retire. It's time for me to go. I can afford. I'm going to retire. He said, no, you could stay. You could just sort of be a figurehead. And I said, you're a casino where the washed up boxer greets people at the door. I really didn't want to do that. I said, if I'm going to be on the bus, I will have to drive the bus. I'm not going to ride on the bus. So I decided I would retire. And it wasn't a financial risk to me, but it was, okay, can I write this book? And I started writing. And the first book, which is called Be Sincere Even When You Don't Mean It, is a fictional, it's a humorous fictional memoir of a guy who's, it's kind of a Walter Mitty thing, except this character actually does all the things in the book. And he's a baseball player at Stanford University who kind of wanders into football practice, ends up playing in the Rose Bowl, gets drafted by the Oakland Raiders, plays in the Super Bowl the next year. I won't ruin it for it. He has a very exciting career. Then he becomes an astronaut. Of course, he's also studying at the time to be an astrophysicist. I have astrophysicists who really like this book because they say there's no other funny books about astrophysicists, which I probably dominate that category. So then his one love in sports has always been golf. He ends up playing in the Masters tournament. He does the Hawaii Triathlon. And the book is really funny. Well, it was good enough that it sold some copies to people that I don't know. It did pretty well on Amazon. And some people that I would call real professional writers liked it and got in touch with me and said, you should keep writing because you're good at being funny. And there are some really great writers who aren't good at being funny, or they have their characters, they kind of staple on jokes. They'll have their character tell a joke. Hey, the Polish guy went to the eye doctor. But they said, your humor is part of your story. It's an integral part of your story. You have to keep writing, but you have to learn how to write a novel because your book, and I did this on purpose to show you how dumb I was. Remember in high school and college, you studied novels and they said, well, the character has to change. The character has to start off here, and Luke Skywalker, he's this callow kid. He goes through this big struggle. At the end, he's a man and a Jedi Knight. I said, oh, I don't want to do that because I just been in my high school reunion. All the guys who were jerks when they were 18 are still jerks.
Huh.
So I'm gonna this character isn't gonna change. I'm gonna rebel against the system, and that's fine. Except that's not what people want in a book. They want they want Luke Skywalker, and if so, some of my author friends said you have to learn how to write a novel, and first thing you have to do is write a story. It has to be a story. I said I know what a story is, and then I realized I really don't. And there's a famous author who said everybody knows what a story is until they sit down to write one. So as I was writing my first novel, I was studying how to write a novel. And interestingly, a lot of the people who teach you how to write refer to movies. So I was writing a movie. I was writing here's a movie I'd like to see. And I was almost done with it until I made this breakthrough and realized it depends on who's teaching you. But let's say there's 15, they call them plot points in a movie.
Yeah.
I hit all 15 of them without even trying.
I love it.
Because I was just watching. I was playing a movie in my head.
Yeah.
And there's something that some teachers call mirror moment. The hero, things are terrible, and he looks in the mirror and realizes the odds are against him, and he's done all these bad things. And I did that without even knowing what a mirror moment was. I had a guy looking in the mirror. He was sitting in a diner, and everything was going terrible. He had no idea how he was going to get out of this. And he looked in the window at himself, and he, just felt as low as you can. Well, you're supposed to do that. And I just did it. So anyhow, I wrote this novel. It did pretty well. And we made an audio book out of it. And then because of the popularity of that, I wrote the sequel to it. That's called The Bitcoin Gambit. People are interested in Bitcoin. So I thought I'd write something with a little tie to that. It's the same main character, J.R. Johnson. He's a money manager. He goes through these struggles, and it's a trilogy. I'm working on a third of the trilogy.
Wow.
And he's going to emerge. So this 3-book sequence is essentially a 900-page novel. It's 300-page books.
Yeah.
And that's where the character arc at the end of this book is going to end up. Now, people told me, don't kill him off. They like him. Don't kill him off. They want to be like Misery and, Kathy Bates and Misery. Don't kill off the main character. So JR probably will go on after this, but he's going through some pretty tough times right now. So I can't promise.
Okay, so I am going to put you on the hot seat and feature you here for a second because I'm replugging in my computer with the battery for some reason, which I don't know, it was fully charged an hour ago, so it's having an issue. And I want you to go back a little bit and share about the Jeopardy that sort of got you into this writing in the first place. I'd love to hear your experience about all that.
Well, everybody does. And in fact, I've given talks about Jeopardy. What's it like to be a contestant on Jeopardy? And this was years ago, but it's basically the same. It's the tryout process is different now. But if you're a Jeopardy fan, you sit at home and say, "Oh, I knew that answer. I could have beat that guy." It's a lot harder when you're there. For one thing, the other two people are pretty smart too. And what you don't see, the main problem with being a Jeopardy contestant is the buzzer. And you can see people kind of jerking their hand because if you come in too early, you have to wait till he's done reading the question. And if you try to come in too early, it locks you out for, I don't know, half a second, something like that. So you see people repeatedly hitting the buzzer. To give you an example, in Double Jeopardy, the night I was on, there are only 2 answers. No, all the answers. I couldn't, I felt like a kid in the back of the room raising it. I know. It's very frustrating. It's very hard to do. The best guy usually wins. The best person usually wins. But sometimes it's just a timing thing. And by the way, it was a close game. We all had to bet virtually everything on Final Jeopardy, except for one guy was $400 ahead. So myself and the other woman who was on bet everything. This guy bet all but $400. We all got it wrong. It was this very convoluted question. It would take up the whole podcast to explain it to you. I basically didn't even understand the question until there were like 5 seconds left. So we got it wrong. He won you've seen the Jeopardy where everybody gets it wrong and it's a close game. So somebody wins with $400. He won with $400. So he was a Jeopardy. I would have rather won with $400 than lose because it feels bad. It feels bad because that was a bucket list thing for me because I was always good at that stuff. And you try out, the tryouts are hard. There's lots of people who try out and don't get on. You go out to California, there was Alex and the stage and Johnny Gilbert. It's pretty exciting. And then it's, as you probably know, they do 5 shows in a day. So we were the 5th show. And what would happen is, as the people would lose, they'd disappear. You're allowed to come back and sit, but they didn't want to. They just left. So it's kind of like 10 little Indians, and now they're dwindling down. So it feels really bad to lose. I tell people, did you ever lose the big game in high school? It's like that, except 7 million people are watching.
Wow. Yes.
And they tell you don't get another chance. You can't come on again. There's too many people who want to be on. We can't have people who lost. See you later. So it's very final. It's pretty depressing to lose on Jeopardy. But I rescued the situation. I started writing an article on the way home on the plane, on napkins and envelopes. And it was in the Hartford Courant, which is the big newspaper in Connecticut. Used to have a Sunday magazine back when newspapers were healthy. And it was competitive. I was the cover story, and there were professional writers who were competing with me to be the cover story that week. And the reason I got in was because the editor loved Jeopardy. So that was a great experience. But
incredible.
Jeopardy itself that's pretty cool. And the alumni of Jeopardy, even though it's been on 30 years, there's only a couple hundred people who are on every year. So it's not that many people. Maybe it's 300. There's not that because they retain one every time. There are some really pretty famous people who lost on Jeopardy, so I don't feel that bad now. I've gotten over it. So
I wonder now, Jim, if that was you're a very intelligent person to be able to pass the test to get into Jeopardy for sure. Win, lose, or draw, it doesn't matter. To be able to get on that show. I wonder if that was a blessing that protected your brain somehow with that brain injury, or because you're doing incredible.
Well, it's funny. I asked the surgeon, why did I get this?
Yeah.
And he said, well, some people are just unlucky. You could have been born with it. You played football. Maybe you had traumatic. And I did have a couple of concussions. Maybe that caused it. Who knows? But you'll see this, especially with people who lose some ability when they're young. People who can't see become great piano players, that sort of thing.
Right.
You compensate for what you've lost, and the other parts become stronger. And I think I'm a lot better writer than I used to be. And part of it is just learning. But I think some of it is I use that. I'm no neuroscientist, but I think I use that part of my brain more.
Yes, I would imagine. So now one of the groups that I've worked with when I was teaching years ago, and something I did was we all went to the Amen Clinic and we got our brain scanned. So my 6 kids and I all went and did that. And many of the students that were on medications for ADD, ADHD, all this would go there, get their scan and see it was an injury, it was something else, or how it was wired. and they would get off all that medication and get into proper nutrients and maybe some vitamin therapy and rewire their brain. And literally they would go back 6 months later and you would see the difference in how their brain was working better and functioning better with these changes.
Well, I've accused my surgeon of taking credit for rewiring my brain. So
Yes, what a gift. And that is so interesting. That sounds really scary.
it is really scary. You know, you're staring at the abyss. When they wheel you in there, you don't know if you're going to be alive. And if you are alive, you don't know if you're going to be able to talk.
Right.
Or what. And when I really realized, because you're kind of goofy, you know, with that kind of injury, they have you on all kinds of stuff and you're kind of goofy before the surgery. I was in the hospital, and to go home, I had to prove I was ambulatory. And Yale has a neuro ICU that looks like Star Trek. It's got all these machines and graphs, and it's fantastic. But you've probably been in an ICU. They have glass walls to the hallway, but you can't see the room next to you. There's a solid wall between rooms, so you can't see the other patients. So I hadn't seen any of the other patients. And the nurse came in and said, okay, you've got it's like an oval. It's a pretty big oval. You have to walk around, prove that you can walk before we'll let you go home. And as I walked around, that's when I realized this is no joke, because I'm pretty sure I was the only guy who was going to walk out of there. There were some real sad things going on there.
Wow.
You know, the people praying and crying, and you can imagine all the stuff. So that's when it really struck me. I'm really a lucky guy. Because, you know, when they show you that picture of, this is your brain, see this big white thing? That's the brain tumor. We have to take that out. That's get your attention.
Definitely. Definitely. Now, Jim, what were you like as a child? What were your goals or visions for what you were going to do when you grew up?
Well, that's a really good question. I was kind of hoping to ask me that, because I couldn't decide whether I wanted to be a sports writer or writer or go into business. And so when I was in college, I was faced finally with it's kind of the road not taken, and which road are you going to take? And I chose the more conventional. Let's go into business. I went and got a master's degree in business, and that's fine. I did fine, and I had a career that was, it's being in stocks. It's interesting every day. It's kind of like getting in the ring, and at 9:30 the bell goes off, and you're in the boxing match every day. But I also did some sports writing when I was in college, enough that I got paid for it, and thought, well, you know, I really admired the writers in Sports Illustrated, Frank DeFord and Dan Jenkins, and I admired George Plimpton and Tom Wolfe, the guy who wrote The Right Stuff, which I think is the greatest book ever written. So I always had that saying, well, maybe I should have done that. You know, maybe I should have done that. And I got to, the great thing is I got to do it.
Yeah.
You know, I'm an old guy now, but I'm still doing it. I'm still friends with the fellow who was the editor of the Hartford Courant magazine. And he says, I can't believe how fast you're writing these things. You're like a writing machine. I said, well, I'm motivated. And by the way, I've written a fourth book. I've already published a fourth book this week. It's called Hit Your Second Shot First. It's about golf.
Wonderful.
And the reason I did that, I was writing the sequel to the Bitcoin Gambit, and the working title is Better Than Even. Writing a novel is hard.
Yeah.
Because, and I don't pretend I'm some literary giant or anything, but however talented you are, you have to get involved with the novel. You get involved with the characters. They become like real people. And again, I know this sounds strange, but I have to kind of pull back sometimes. Just say, okay, take the rest of the day off, go pet the horse, go play golf. You have to step back from it.
Wow. Well, that golfing book sounds perfect for my second home in Vegas. That actually is a golf resort. So definitely something to have in the golf shops, I would imagine as well. Would sell really well there. So I'll have to share your book with them in this interview. And something about that you mentioned, when you were younger, you were already writing, and then you chose a different path,
Yes.
and life showed up
Right.
and redirected you back
Yeah.
home to writing.
Well,
And
think about how lucky that is.
yes, and for those listening in, going through this interesting time that we are still on the roller coaster, um, worldwide with everything, going through these times, you may be rerouted or redirected. It may be your business closes, or something changes. You have to move, whatever it is. It's part of it. Go
Yeah.
back to what your talents are, what your passions are that maybe you put down for a while, because it just may be time for that.
Yeah. Well, and I have three, I call them kids, but they're all grown up people now. I've always told them, do something you like, because you're going to be dead for a long time. And I tell them about how I worked in an office building in Hartford. As
Mhm.
years went by, I got to work out of my house as the internet developed, and we had those capabilities. But for the first, I don't know, 20 years, I was in this office every day,
Mm,
and I would see people get in the elevator like they were going to the guillotine. They were not happy. They were making a decent living. They hated their lives. Maybe that's a little too strong, but they weren't happy with their life.
right.
And you just say, you know what? As you say, maybe this is the time, because of what's going on with COVID. Maybe you go out, because if you I really enjoy writing. It's my wife has to come and get me. It's time to have supper. I'm not looking at the clock. It's
Yeah.
if you find something you're that passionate about, your life's going to be fun and good, and you can find a way to make the money.
Yes. And if you feel stuck, or you are the breadwinner in the family, maybe at this moment, and you have to roll up your sleeves and do some work you don't love, find a way to express your talents through a side situation, even if it's just volunteering, because somebody will see your talent, and the next thing you know, you will be in the career you love. So
Yeah,
that's something that
I had that experience. I was really surprised that these real authors got in touch with me out of the clear blue sky. It's funny. My first book, my golf book, is no swearing in it. My first three have what I call locker room language. It's not anything graphic,
right.
terrible or anything, but you're talking about football. I've been in a football locker room. This is how the guys talk in a football locker room.
All right, and talking about cussing, there is something about money right now in this interesting time, and it is something that makes you kind of want to cuss sometimes. But the reality is that you are attracting everything you want. And if you are looking for a job as a truck driver, I have a special announcement for you. So maybe that's exactly what you're attracting. If you are just tuning in, this is NBC's Sheila Mac Show here on KCAA Radio, the station that leaves no listener behind. And today, we have to thank our special sponsor of today's show, and that is the Commodore Express CEI Trucking Company. And if you are looking for work this year, I have some good news for you. If you're looking for a rock solid income, the sponsor of this show is now hiring. So get ready to take some notes. And I'm just going to share a little bit more about CEI. Attention, Nashville area drivers and drivers on the West Coast. Commodore Express is actively hiring CDLA team drivers for our West Coast weekly runs. Commodore Express is a family-oriented company offering a complete benefits package and above-average pay package. We pride ourselves on family values, including honesty and respect. Our teams will typically be pulling refrigerated trailers, be on a 5-on, 2-off schedule, average 4,500 plus miles per week, an out and back type operation, and will enjoy consistent miles and pay. More miles available for teams that want more. There are full-time, part-time, retired, casual, and female drivers that are encouraged to apply. You can learn more about Commodore Express at our website, www.commodoreexpress.net. Request an online application or call Robert in recruiting at area code 615-287-5140, extension 1. Again, that is area code 615-287-5140, extension 1. Call today to start the application process. We look forward to seeing your seat in one of our seats. Commodore Express, www.commodoreexpress.net, area code 615-277-5140, extension 1. I hope you took notes, and if you or someone you know on the West Coast wants to do truck driving, then contact CEI today. And an honest thank you to all our truck drivers and essential workers out there, especially during these times. Thank you so much. You are all appreciated. And now we are returning to our show with the incredible Jim, who is sharing some important information and fun stories.
That book, and there's a lot about football and golf, and it's more of a guy book. Although I was surprised a lot of women like it, but I got in touch. This woman got in touch with me, who's a successful what is it called? Cozy romances.
Mm-hmm.
That's a category, and they're like old lady books.
Oh, wow.
Cowboy Christmas at the gazebo, that kind of stuff. And I said, I'm really surprised that you like my book. And she said, well, it's because it's funny, and you have I don't even remember how somebody gave it to her. I don't remember how she got it. You have a talent for being funny. You have to keep writing. And she told me to read Stephen King's book on writing, which I would recommend to anybody who wants to write. That's one of the things. Stephen King's much more, and I'm not a big Stephen King fan, but his life is, you can see why he writes the stuff he does.
Yeah.
And he's got some real good advice for writers.
Definitely. And it was really funny when I started getting back into writing years ago. I was expecting one of my last children. I have 6. I adopted 3 and then had 3 more, and on my own. And I ran into Stephen King. And then I oh my gosh, it was like Benihana's across from Cedar Sinai's in Beverly Hills. And I thought, there's something to this. And I looked up some of these books, and and that's when I found his book on writing. And I was like,
oh, you read it?
Wow, how the universe conspires sometimes to bring us exactly what we need when we're listening.
Yeah, look at that guy.
Yeah, incredible.
Yeah.
I would not want to have his nightmares for sure. That would be.
And look at the personal struggles with dependence on alcohol and drugs, and the way that he triumphed through that. He says, I forget what book it was, maybe Misery. He doesn't even remember writing it.
Incredible how the mind works.
Yeah, well, I think your show is great. I think people should, as you say, maybe you go to open mic night if you're a singer. And why not? At least you get to sing.
Right.
And I'm glad I got this opportunity. One of the things about my books, the thrillers have humor in them. And some people say, people want Jack Reacher and they want Spencer for Hire. There's no humor in it. And I said, you know what? I'm going to write what I like.
Nice.
And Stephen King's a great example, because they did a survey. 90% of people don't like Stephen King. They think he's a creep, and the books are creepy and they're scary, and they've never read a book by Stephen King. Yet Stephen King has sold over 1 billion copies. and how much has he made from the movies?
Right.
So I tell people, it's funny. I mean, I'm nothing as a writer, but people are already asking me for advice. And I say, just write what you like. Find people who like what you write. Do the best you can. Don't throw something together. But if you find people who like you, then serve that audience. Don't try to be something you're not.
Yes, that's so important. And that's what we need. Authenticity and real. People like real right now and always. And when you're really honest, I remember this beautiful group of elders. My grandmother had all these little friends. So they were probably in their 70s and 80s when I was 5. And I knew them until they passed away. They were part of my family, extended family.
Mhm.
And they got to a point in their life where they didn't give a flying duck about
Yep.
other people's opinions. And they had everything they could ever want. They had homes paid for, cars. They were not into pleasing anybody. They just were real. And they were so honest. And I thought, oh my gosh, those are the kind of people I aspire to be like.
Well,
Just-
fortunately, I'm about there now. So,
Yeah.
but I'm just going to do what I want to do.
Exactly.
And fortunately, it's working. And I get to, I have audio books of all my books, and I tried to do the narration,
Mm-hmm.
and I was terrible.
Mm-hmm.
I did 5 minutes and I listened to it and said, I wouldn't even listen to this book. I found professional narrators. This Gary Williams, he's fantastic. He's a Californian like you. But so I realized I should just write.
Yeah.
I shouldn't try to do something that you have to be a good narrator. You have to be an actor as well as, I don't have the voice for it either, but even if you have the voice, you have to be an actor. And I have no acting chops at all. I love to speak in public. I'm going to do a couple talks now that COVID's over. I'm going to do a couple talks at libraries in the next couple weeks. And I'm very animated and I have fun and all that stuff, but it's really different than trying to narrate an audiobook. And it makes you really, I don't know if you have any experience with that, but it makes you really appreciate the talent that's out there.
You know, I did my own audiobook and I went through a professional company that won awards. And I literally stayed in their special suite and I was there for a week and a half and had training before I did the work. And I enjoyed it, but it was intense and it was a learning experience. And they told me that very few people in that group are not the professional audiobook readers. And so it's something, if you're good at it, if you like it, that's great. I enjoyed it. It was great. It was easy for me once I figured it out, but it is a lot of work. Nobody realizes the work involved.
No, it's really hard. It's really hard. And well, you have a good voice for it. And I assume that you are doing your own books, these motivational things. That's easier. My second book, Gary Williams did the first book, which is essentially one guy telling a story. There's a few conversations in it. But the second book is a novel, and there's 20 characters in it.
Oh my.
And there's a lot of women in it. Lola is a big movie star, and there's a Russian bad guy in it. There's conversations between 2 Russians. There's conversations between 2 or 3 women. And this guy is so good that you can tell which woman is talking.
Oh, that's incredible. Yeah, that's a whole different ball game.
Yeah, that's a whole. Yeah, I could never be that good.
Yeah.
So I said, I'll split the royalties with him because he deserves it. He's great. He's going to do the next. He's doing the golf. The golf book will be easy for him. But
that's so good.
But you have a great and sincere voice, and I'm sure you're great at doing your books. But I'm not going to do that.
So do your talent and then hire out. And that's such a good bit of advice for anybody listening in, no matter what you're doing. Hire, delegate, even if you have to trade maybe for something. If you can't afford it, it's not in the budget, figure out a way to exchange. And I've done that with different people where it blesses both of us. and it stays in the budget, especially when I was starting things out years ago. I did a lot of that, and it makes a big difference in helping each other out, because the other person needed that as well. They need that job to pay their bills or whatever it is. And so we really do bless each other that way.
Well, you know what I've found as I've done this is one of the things that they tell you is when you start to write books, you're going to lose some friends, not necessarily your best friends, but people who are sort of friendly to you. I said, well, why would that happen? It happens. That for one thing, I'm really boring because I talk about my books all the time. Only my best friends will listen to me. But I think there's also some people who resent you or say, like, who are you to, who do you think you are writing a book? Okay, see you later. You're off. I'm not calling you again. That happens. But on the good side is you make new friends. And I have some people that I consider friends I've never met. We've maybe done a Skype call or Zoom or something, who've helped me with something to do with my books, and I've helped them. And so you say one hand sort of washes the other. And because of the wonderfulness of the way we're communicating right now, you can make friends all over the world.
That's right. I literally have courses that I run that are connecting with people in South Africa, Australia, all over the planet. Dubai. I work a lot with people in Dubai now, and I would never be able to, or really want to, hop on a plane and spend 30 hours, flying all that just to do one little discussion for a couple hours. And so this new way of doing things has actually opened the world for me. And my goal was to get the message out. And at a certain point, you want to be with your family, you want to pet your dog and take a walk and relax and not just be traveling all the time. So I'm really grateful for the internet and the ability to connect with so many people, and the right people show up when you're in integrity and honest.
Well,
and like
I have to keep going. I can't stop.
Exactly.
But it's very exciting. I've talked to people from South Africa and New Zealand and Australia. I guess people that read English. But I was surprised when my first book came out. I got fan mail from South Africa.
That's wonderful.
That was great. I mean, when was that going to happen?
Right. That is incredible. So now we are coming to the end of our talking time. So I'd love for you to share the names of your books and where people can connect with you more.
Okay. There's 4 books, and I'll do two. The first and the fourth are both funny books. One of the reviews are just coming in. The fourth book just out, but one of the reviewers called it acerbic humor, and I thought that was perfect. And it's not a word that I'd use in my books. I have pretty plain vocabulary, but so if you don't like acerbic humor, they're not for you. But the first book is called Be Sincere Even When You Don't Mean It. Even the people who wrote not so great reviews said they laughed out loud. And that was really what I was shooting for. The fourth book is called Hit Your Second Shot First. And it's just about golf. And if you're not interested in golf, you wouldn't be interested, but it's doing quite well. Then the 2 novels. The first one is called Losing Lola. And the second one is called The Bitcoin Gambit. They feature recurring character J.R. Johnson, who is the protagonist. He's also the recurring character in the book I'm working on, which is called Better Than Even. And they can find any of my books. They're on Amazon. But the easiest way is to go to my website, which is JimFlynn6, S-I-X. And then you can just click and it'll take you, if you want to buy Losing Lola, you just click on it. It'll take you right to Amazon.
Outstanding. All right. Well, thank you again, Jim, for being a guest on the show. And for those tuning in, we'll be back after these messages. So stay tuned.
Thanks, Sheila.
If you are just tuning in, this is NBC's Sheila Mac Show here on KCAA Radio, the station that leaves no listener behind. And today I have something special to share with you. Are you ready to take your power back, take your life back? Have you just experienced a difficult situation or just living through our very interesting times? Are you ready to reinvent, rebuild, and reboot life on your terms? Check out my new book, Bootstraps and Bra Straps, the formula to go from rock bottom back into action in any situation. Here's a little bit more. Necessitated. You need a guide to show you how we get through a situation like this, to give you resources and to help you get out of the emotional pea soup fog of dealing with a crisis and the resulting fallout. I've been there, and I'm here to help you. Out of the fog. If you weren't emotionally bound up in your situation, you would have more clarity. You would be able to see your best options for dealing with whatever comes up. If the version of yourself who has already walked through this rock bottom and come out the other end could go back in time and give you, the you right now, some advice, what would she say? Would she tell you to slow down, to stop rushing, that you don't have to have all the answers today? Would the future you recommend not making any major decisions without reviewing them first, particularly while you're still in the fog? Would she tell you that normal is going to look different for a while, but that you will feel normal again? In case we haven't invented time travel by the time you read this book, I'm here to tell you all of the above. I developed the Boots formula to help you learn to make choices, have a life shift, and make great things happen based on your individual values and best life vision. A change is going to happen, and it's worth it. There's a stage where it feels like everyone in your life is picking at you. Life itself may seem like it's trying its best to stop you from doing whatever you want to do. All you hear is, "That's a stupid idea," and "That's never going to work," and "Who do you think you are?" One of the hardest things for people to do is to realign and possibly walk away from anything and anyone that conflicts with their value systems. But you are going to discover that power within yourself. Through the activities and examples in this book, you will discover your true north and will be able to easily do what is needed to move forward with your life. Anything that hurts you, that doesn't resonate for you, that fights against what you want and believe in, you are going to give it the boot. Once you have turned your rock bottom moment into a positive, beautiful life shift, you can live your life on your terms. Your life will probably look different, but you get to design it this time. You are taking your life back, and you are in charge, not anybody else. Sooner than you can imagine, you'll be in the career of your dreams or the relationship you always wanted. Because you are going to learn to develop healthy boundaries. Because you are going to do things differently along the way from here to there. You will begin to attract the people, the job, the place to live, all of the opportunities that align with who you are, your essence, your truth, not anybody else's or even society's expectations of the way you're supposed to be. Once you have accepted that you are in charge of living your life and you begin to embody living your truth, people are going to see you. They're going to be inspired by you. Then you're going to hear, "Hey, can you show me how you did that? I want to do it too." When you assess your peer group and up-level according to your life purpose and vision, and once you have created a life shift for yourself, whatever that looks like, your life is not just full, it's fulfilled. Not only do you get more and better sleep, you wake up feeling rested and happy. You know that you're doing what you need to do. Yes, sometimes your heart will call you to leave certain friends or family members in order to find a more aligned peer group. From what I've seen, however, the ones who leave always return to lead their family and friends to success. Because your friends are more in alignment with your beliefs and value system, they support you while also pushing you toward your personal best.
Life still involves work, but as a whole, it feels far more effortless. But you don't have to wait for the right person, right job, or right investment opportunity to show up. You can start living now so that every moment as you go forward through the process of recovering from rock bottom and redesigning your life is one more step to being the best version of you, the one who came back.
And that is what my new book, Bootstraps and Bra Straps, the formula to go from rock bottom back into action in any situation, is all about. It is now available on Audible and Amazon Books, as well as wherever fine books are sold. And there is a special if you go to my website, www.sheilamac.com, www.sheilamac.com. So grab a copy today, and in that book you will get 14 free gifts related to strategizing and redesigning life on your terms.
Is not one size fits all, just like a pair of boots or a bra. So the formula is designed to help you through any situation. To grab a copy of my new best-selling book, Bootstraps and Bra Straps, the formula to go from rock bottom back into action in any situation. It is now available on Audible as well as on Amazon and Kindle and at www.sheilamac.com.